Marhaba, and welcome to the Matrix Green Pill, where real people connect.
Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I am Hilmarie Hutchison, and today I am so excited to introduce not one, but two excellent guests, Ghalia and Nabih Al-Mamaiz. Ghalia and Nabz are founders of the best vegan restaurant in Dubai, Little Erth, by Nabz G. Their lifestyle and their approach to food and eating are both inspiring and fascinating. Today, they are here with us to tell us about their story. So welcome and thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. It's great to be here.
So our listeners would love to get to know both of you a bit better. So could you please introduce yourselves and tell us about your backgrounds?
I have lived in the UAE since 2007. Before that, I was living in Jordan for all my life, actually. I was born in Lebanon, but raised in Jordan. All my life, I've been in communication. I was a journalist for 5 years. I've been in government communications. And I was leading a very corporate life until we decided I had a personal experience that got me to where I am right now. And it's been an amazing journey ever since.
All right. So when people ask me, where are you from? I always say I'm geographically confused. So I'm basically originally Iraqi Turkish. I grew up in Jordan and in Sweden. And I also spent a few years of my life in Montreal. That's where I got my chef certification. Career-wise, I have a marketing and business degree. I did corporate communications and PR for a few years. And then I took a few years to do my culinary background certification. And then I came to Dubai, did some more corporate PR. And that's how me and my business partner met and started creating magic.
Oh, wow. Sounds so exciting and so interesting. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you met?
This is something that you usually see in movies. We used to work in the same office. We were literally coexisting in the same space for years, but we never spoke to each other. We never knew I knew who she was, but I never knew that she would be my business partner.
In PR, you have different areas of expertise.
Yeah, and Ghalia was more like she was a different thing. I was super busy with my client. She was busy with hers. So what happened one of those days is she sent out an email to all the employees. It was a meditation, wasn't it? And I expressed interest in this meditation. So I went to her office. I was super excited. And she tells me, oh, I'm really sorry. This is meditation that's only going to be offered to women. And I said, well, that sucks. I'd like to be part of that meditation. We then continued talking and we kind of hit it off from there. And she told me, well, if you want, you can come over one day. I can give you this meditation. And I said, well, I'd love to. And then we found out that we were neighbors. And then the rest just happened organically.
So it was like destiny brought you together in the end.
Yeah, totally.
Brilliant. So let's jump right in and talk about Little Erth. So starting from the beginning, how did you come up with the idea for Little Erth?
The concept of plant-based cuisine was not very popular 5 years ago in Dubai. And I had been going through a personal experience with my health, whereby I was exploring all kinds of different life-changing experiences, if you will, until I went. Nabz and I had already met and we were thinking of starting a restaurant. But then in between, I went to Bali and I had my raw food certification there. I wasn't plant-based then. I was just, exploring this cuisine. And then when I came to Dubai, I was telling Nabz, you know what? I think this is what we need to do. We need to really focus on this cuisine because this is the future. And he agreed instantaneously because we had a huge gap in the market that needed to be filled. And this is how we came up with the idea. And we said, you know what? It's not only about offering plant-based food. It's about changing or creating a new perspective on healthy eating. This is something that was lacking here.
Before you officially created the actual restaurant, what was your backstory with that?
So basically, I had both my parents were diagnosed with cancer at a very young age. That was back in 2003. You start questioning, your lifestyle. I thought everything, both of us, our family was a very healthy family. And we were, back then. But then there were a lot of things that we were doing, the food, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of managing stress and all of these things. It really pushed me into exploring an alternative lifestyle. This is how I went into energy healing. And then, one thing leads to another. And then we started exploring, how you can change your life with food. It was a really, really interesting progression.
World Vegan Days just ended, and I know a lot of people are talking about turning to vegetarianism and veganism, as you are talking about. Can you tell us a bit more about your philosophy on this and why do you feel it's important to spread this message?
I don't know if you've noticed, since COVID, people started to really look at the way they live their lives, right? And it pushes you to really think differently about the food that you eat and about how you're improving your immune system. And for us, of course, in the beginning, because inspired by our own personal experiences with food, I feel that people need to understand that you can actually control your life. You can really control your well-being. You can be a master of your destiny. I know this sounds very cliche, but you really can. And this is our message, actually. This is our philosophy, is that with simple changes, it's not about turning into veganism. And this is not the message that we're spreading at Little Erth. We make it very clear because we also offer like a couple of seafood dishes for those who are interested in exploring a plant-based, not diet, but lifestyle. And there's a huge difference between both. You can eat meat and chicken during the week, and you can be plant-based on the weekend, or vice versa. Our philosophy is to have people explore introducing more plant-based food into their diets. This is our philosophy, is to explore how you can really control your, the way you eat. Because, when you eat a lot of animal protein, you tend to ignore the nutritious aspect of food, which is the fiber, the fruits, the vegetables, and all of this. So we carry a mission really at Little Erth.
One of the things that we've been really good at over the years is when it comes to we create a new perception when it comes to food. So the first things that we did in the first Ramadan when we opened was we were thinking, well, how can we twist things and attract more of an Arabic crowd? Because we're both Middle Eastern, right? So we started creating all these traditional Arabic dishes like mlokhiyeh, bamiyeh, typical dishes. Knafe was like a huge hit when we first launched it. And people loved it. And the feedback that we usually get from our clients most of the time is we can have this food and we really don't feel like we're missing out on how this is traditionally made. And I can give you an example, for instance, with like risotto. Risotto is traditionally cooked with cream. We cook it with vegetable stock, that we make in-house. So it's all about creating illusions for people to have a healthier version of a food while not missing out on the real experience.
Right, because I do think sometimes there could be the perception that vegetables can be boring. With kids, you'd always have to convince them.
Right.
Exactly.
That's been the story of our life for the last 5 years.
This is definitely the myth that we're trying to debunk, or at least the perception we're trying to change, is that vegetables are so versatile. You can do so much. And this is actually what I learned back in Bali. I don't know if you've had raw food before, but raw food is very, very interesting. And, raw foodists are very strict. So they don't like to explore any other cooked food. But at the restaurant, what we did is we combined both. We got some of the raw food tips, things that people do in that diet, and then incorporated them. And this is how we're able to come up with a very interesting menu.
I think the trick to cooking in general is to manipulate flavors. So usually when people come and say, well, this doesn't taste like chicken. Well, the first thing I ask people is, what does chicken really taste like? Have you ever had chicken without any spices? Or it's the consistency, it's the texture that you're talking about. And you can actually manipulate all these things. For instance, we introduced a shawarma 3 years ago that people love, and it's made with jackfruit. And jackfruit has the same consistency, almost the texture of chicken. People love it. So whenever they want to give themselves a break from the chicken, they just come and try the jackfruit shawarma.
I love your balanced approach and that you leave space for people with different views. You have to only take one approach to this. I think that's excellent.
The thing is, you can't really take some people do and some people don't. I don't like to tell people what to do the same way I don't like people to tell me what to do. It's about putting all the cards on the table and telling people, listen, if you want to explore, we're here to help you explore. And if you want to stay the way you are, then you can do that as well. It wouldn't hurt you to explore.
Some people might call this a trend. How would you respond to that?
Nabz and I always discuss that. And a lot of people say, yeah, it's a trend, it's going to end and stuff. Maybe it was perceived as a trend in the beginning. But then if you think about it, plant-based is a lifestyle that is more sustainable than other trends in the market, like keto, paleo. These come and go because you can't sustain them. You can't really go on a keto diet all your life, right? It's a trend that might actually die out. For example, Atkins was a trend, right? I think as a diet. But then plant-based, I think, and also Nabz, we were talking about a few days ago, and he was saying with the growth of there's more processed food in the market. nowadays. People have so many options to eat ready-made food that is highly, highly processed. So people started to develop all these tolerances to dairy, for example. And this is why a lot of my friends who are not vegan can only have their coffee with, with coconut or almond milk because they can't digest
will be
dairy milk anymore.
Yeah, and one more thing, you'll be surprised if we tell you that 90% of our meal plan clients are actually not plant-based. There are people who want to give their bodies a break. They want to go on a plant-based diet just to cleanse and clean. We've noticed that. I think it's 90% or more.
Actually, you're absolutely right. And even more, because the last few clients, because I'm designing the meal plans, actually all of them right now are not plant-based. And this is really amazing. It's very impressive because people are open. And what we're trying to do, and Nabz, I think, is very good at that, is his strength is something that I actually avoid sometimes, is to really look at the common recipes, dishes that you see every day in restaurants, like tacos, like, shawarma, like
mac and cheese,
and make them accessible to everyone, while, of course, adhering to or sticking to our mission of offering clean food, using clean.
And that's where Ghalia comes in, because she would bring the recipe and
so basically, I'm the food police in the relationship.
Yeah.
I think, as you say, we are so inundated with processed foods that to be able to step away from that and anything clean that's not filled with all the chemicals that you can buy off the shelf, I think will do such fantastic wonders for your health. And I think your idea of recreating what's familiar and what's maybe comfort food to people, but in a clean way, is absolutely brilliant.
This is what at Time Out Market, we have a location in there. And our slogan there is healthy comfort food, because this is what people want nowadays. We're trying to also change the perception of fast food. People think fast food is only junk food. For us, it's comfort food can also be happy.
It's all about what goes into the meals. That's excellent. Congratulations on being nominated Best Vegan Restaurant in 2018 and Best Healthy Restaurant in 2019. Can you tell our listeners a bit more about these awards and what they meant to you?
The first award, you mentioned the Best Vegan Restaurant. That was actually our first year of operation. I think it was us going into our second year. And we had worked so hard that year because, we were still establishing ourselves and we're still new in the market. So I remember when we got that invitation, we were like, oh, there's no way we're going to win this. When we actually won it, I think it was one of the highlights of us being in this business, really, because we just felt appreciated, like that what we were doing actually has a purpose.
It felt that we're doing something right.
Yeah, totally. And then for the Best Healthy, which was in 2019, it was exactly the same feeling. Like it was a feeling when you do something and you know that you're doing something with a cause, like you're doing the right thing. I think personally, that's how I felt. I just felt we're on something that has legs.
It's great that you get recognition for what you are doing. That's excellent. So let's change gears a bit and talk, Ghalia, about what you've been doing for the past 8 years. You've been delving into the world of energy and you pursued practical training in Pranic Healing. Can you tell our audience a bit more about that?
So Pranic Healing is an energy healing technique that focuses very much on balancing your energy centers. We have chakras. I'm sure you're familiar with that. So when you go about your life every day, I always say that people, when they stress out, when they go under a lot of life pressures, we forgot to give a shower, as I call it, to our energy, to our body, energy body, as we say. We give our physical bodies shower every morning, but we neglect our energy bodies. So Pranic Healing just does that. It just looks at your energy centers and it helps you regain your balance. Something that you can do through meditation. But if you cannot meditate every morning, a practitioner, whether be it Pranic Healing or somebody from a Reiki healing practitioner, can help you do that. And it really, really helped me cope with my grief after I lost my parents. It helped me cope with a lot of stresses in my life in Dubai. When you come into Dubai, it can be very overwhelming. So I spent the first 3 or 4 years of my life here studying and practicing. And this is when things started opening to me. When you help yourself energetically, life starts to give you back. And this is when we started Little Erth. So it was a really, really very rewarding journey.
So you sort of brought together all the different aspects in your life. It was the healing and the meditation and then the food as well, to have like a holistic approach to healing.
That's amazing. And then last year, because of COVID, everybody with the lockdowns, I thought this would be the best time for me to even take it further and get myself, the health coaching certification. And as you said, you just put it all together and then now ready, because we also have the restaurant, to use all of that and start giving back, help people with their leading a healthy lifestyle through a health coaching program.
I know you mentioned earlier that you are a certified chef and you got your training in Canada. Can you please tell us more about that and about your approach to eating? Because I know you also have a holistic approach to eating.
Yeah, so basically, I did a 3-year culinary course in Montreal. The reason why I decided to take that course was, and it was a little bit long, because usually people do an express course where they do it for a year or 6 months or sometimes weeks, I guess. I've always been interested in food and I always wanted to learn how to do things the proper way from scratch, So the whole thing was theory and it was practical and theory, and we had to do things in different categories. You would have 3 months of just doing soups and stocks. There were 3 months where you would do, chicken, meat, and fish, and then soups and sauce, all this stuff, just like any culinary course. So I found that very, very interesting. When we finished the course, here I was with a certification, and then I thought to myself, well, what's next? What do I want to do? I want to work as a cook. My first thing was no, I think I'm destined for something greater than that. And I wanted to create something where I would have people help me come up with, or what's the word I'm looking for? Have people help me execute recipes as opposed to being full-time in the kitchen, if that makes sense. So yeah, and then I came to Dubai and then I met Ghalia and then our story happened there. When it comes to my approach with food, my holistic approach, I grew up in Sweden. And from a very young age, we were always taught this is one of the blessings of growing up there. We were always taught from a young age of what healthy is. And I've always been interested in that because I always felt great when I ate clean food. So throughout my life, I've always been conscious. And I think I've always been someone who eats clean. And having this part of me doing this as a business owner feels great because I can share that with the rest of the world.
Ghalia, let's get back to you. You mentioned a couple of times that you got certified in raw food as being a raw food chef in Bali. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
It was a mere coincidence. Actually, I was looking for a retreat at the same time, to basically help. I was going through a very minor health concern, and I was doing a lot of research on how to deal with it until I saw a friend of mine posting her certification on Facebook, and I just called them up. And I wasn't following a plant-based diet then. That was back in 2014. I just signed up instantaneously. It was June, and then December I was in Bali.
I think we had just met.
Yeah. And then I went to Bali for 2 weeks and spent eating cooking and eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, raw food, which was very difficult for a lot of people actually to stick to. Going from cooked animal protein to raw plant-based, food. It was a very, very difficult transformation. But for me, it wasn't. And I was meant to eat this for the rest of my life. So then when I came back to Dubai, I just completely switched. It was an effortless transformation for me.
And then she kidnapped me and took me back there. Was it a year later?
Exactly. No, 6 months later. I was
6 months later.
You know what? We're starting a restaurant. The food scene there is unbelievable. I'm going to take you there and you have to see it for yourself. So we went back to Bali and for inspiration. And then we came back and started the restaurant.
So that whole immersive experience really made the transformation that much easier for you. Now, you also earned a health coaching certification. Was that earlier or was that at the same time?
Actually, that was just last year. As I mentioned before, because I did the energy healing and then we started the restaurant, and with all my experience with food and energy, I was like, I had to find a way to give back, to really put all of this together. So health coaching is not about nutrition. It's only 1% or 10% about nutrition, but it's also about your sleep, your relationships, your stress management. It's about your social life, your life environment. It's about your creativity. It's everything that you do. So you have to basically look at your life from a holistic perspective and try to create balance in everything that you do for you to have a healthy lifestyle. So it's a very, very beautiful program. And I just graduated last month, actually.
Congratulations. Excellent. I love that you bring everything together, the food, the sleeping, the exercise, everything into one holistic solution.
Yeah, because living in a corporate world, I worked for like over 20 years of my life in one of the most difficult sectors, journalism and PR and, long hours and
high stress.
And, you don't eat well, you don't sleep well. I used to smoke. 10 years ago, I quit, thank God. But I used to be a smoker and I used to have a completely different lifestyle. And I was suffering from chronic inflammation. I was suffering from anxiety. I had all kinds of health concerns. So I know now, I wish I was doing all of this then, but I know now what it feels like to be in a corporate environment with no attention to your own health.
A huge change for you. That's brilliant. And I love that you are sharing that with others. As you said earlier, to find your purpose in life, right? And to make a difference in other people's lives. So Nabz, let's get back to you. You are a real food artist, presenting gourmet cuisine as a community and engaging experience. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Technically, I'm someone who always enjoys the visual aspect of things. And with food, it's the same thing. You should see something, it needs to taste great, but it also needs to look very pretty. Simply, I think that's it. Like when it comes to visuals of food, I just enjoy looking at something that looks good, that will taste equally good. It needs to look good because, you're selling an experience, right? So you're selling something that is different, that's going to look different, that's going to taste different. And I think that's just like any dish that is presented in a nice way, you would expect the plate to look good.
Right. So you're not just all dumping it all on a plate. You're actually taking a lot of care and making, as you say, a feast for the eyes. And then once you taste it,
then it becomes a feast for the body.
Yes. And a clean one at that, which is the cherry on top.
Exactly.
So you bring it all together in one, which is fantastic. So can you share some tips with our audience on a healthy lifestyle, whether that's food, as we're speaking about mostly here, or Ghalia, or even on the lifestyle side of things?
This is something that you hear all the time, but I really mean live in the moment, appreciate, because we live in a very high stress environment and very competitive environment, and we'd never slow down. So whenever you have an opportunity to slow down and enjoy, I was talking to a client the other day and I said, pamper yourself with your meals. When you want to eat breakfast or lunch, plate your dish, make it look good, sit down with yourself, make it a meditative experience. Don't eat on the go. This is one of the things that I was talking to a client about. This is from a nutrition, let's say, point of view. And also from, because we also sit behind our desks, movement is very important, and sleep. These are the three things that I focus on all the time. Good nutrition, movement, and sleep are very, very important.
And Nabz, do you have any tips you can share?
For me personally, I do agree with everything that Ghalia said. It's always good to educate yourself and to be conscious of what you're putting into your body. Because technically, we need to think about our bodies as a vessel, and this vessel needs the fuel that it needs to operate. And the more love you give it, the more it will give you in the long run. So the more you nurture it in this from a young age, the more it will serve you in the long run. So that's the way I look at it. Like, educate yourself. What is good for you? It's very easy to look at. You can Google everything. Like, what is good for your body? What is good for your eyes? What is good for your hair?
Yeah, it's very true. A lot of people ask me this question. What do you think I should do? And we always say, before you go and explore keto, paleo, all of these diets, just really do this education thing that Nabz said. Why should I not eat processed food? What does it do to my body? As opposed to like, okay, I'm going to stop it now, but it's not going to be sustainable. I'm going to eat that when I lose 5 kilos, right? This is how we sustain our lifestyle is, it's not good for you, but you need to understand why.
And I need to share one more thing that is such a common thing that I hear, aside from everything that we spoke about, which is important, which is weight loss. And, when people go on an express fat diet and they say, well, you know what? I'm going to go on a diet for 3 weeks. I'm not going to eat this much. I'm going to eat 1 meal a day. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose 10 kgs and I'm going to be ready for the new year. And the first thing I tell people is don't bother. Don't do it. And they look at me, they're like, what? Why? I say, because it's pointless. Because what will happen is you're going to starve your body. You're going to deprive your body from what it really needs. And then guess what? Before you know it, you're going to go back to your lifestyle and you're going to gain even more weight. The trick is not to go on these diets to lose the 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever kgs. The point is to adapt a new lifestyle, and the rest always follows. And it's not only the weight. it's the skin, it's the hair, it's the everything. It's even your brain will feel different.
Absolutely.
I think that's very valuable advice. Rather than focusing on weight, we should be focusing on health because then everything else will follow.
Exactly. I'm just reading a book called Intuitive Eating. I'm learning a lot from that, How do you follow your intuition, This is something that we fail to do, when we're on the run, on the go, you're not in touch with your body.
So you guys have done so well. You've had some excellent success so far. But what's next for you? Do you have any goals that you can share with us? Anything on the horizon? Anything that you're looking forward to?
Funny you asked this question because we are actually now ready to expand. I mean, we're talking about it. We've been having a lot of meetings lately, and this is our time to really look at other markets.
I think the whole point is to be, what's the word I'm looking for? To be attainable?
Yeah, I mean, to be more accessible.
To be accessible, that's the word I was looking for.
We're thinking of different markets. We're thinking of cloud kitchens, probably here or in the region. This is when I think this 2022 for us will be the year of expansion.
Absolutely. That's exciting. That sounds very, very good. And we will definitely be following your journey and seeing where it takes you next. That sounds very exciting. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this information with us and your story. It's been really interesting to get to know you guys a bit. Now we've come to the segment of our show where I'd like to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions, our version of a game show. So just whatever comes into your head first. And you can choose who answers it. I don't mind. What is your favorite vacation destination?
So for Ghalia, it's Bali. For me, it's probably the States. I love going to the States.
Excellent. A favorite state?
California.
Very nice. Okay. Who would be one guest that you would like to invite for dinner cooked by you?
Matthew Kenny. Matthew Kenny is a very popular plant-based chef. I love his work.
I like to have Oprah come and try our food.
Oh, wow. Yes. Very nice. Okay.
I think she would be an awesome guest.
I think so too. That'll be brilliant. Okay. What is your favorite dish?
Acai. I can have acai bowl for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't mind.
Is this a tough question for a chef?
It's because I don't have a favorite, but then if you give me an acai bowl anytime, I just have it. I can have that.
I'll tell you one thing. For me, the first thing when you said about favorite dish, I don't have a favorite dish because when it comes to food, I'm very moody. So usually, and I'll fill you in a little think something about me. I usually crave lunch when I first wake up. Not that I would eat it in the morning, but I usually say, okay, so today I'm going to have this dish for lunch. And that's what I would usually have that day. So that would be my favorite dish of the day, if that makes sense.
What is one thing you do every day, no matter how busy you are?
I do my Tibetan rites, and they're 5 rites. Well, when I say they're basically 5 yoga postures that I do every morning, every day except for Friday, because that's the day I don't do anything.
Yeah, I do my meditation. I think some journaling in the evening, meditation in the morning.
Excellent. Very good. So thank you for playing along. So that was not so hard. So now before we wrap up, we'd like to do our green pill moment. So Nabz, I'll start with you with one question. What was your green pill moment, the action or event that was the turning point for your career?
It's a very interesting question because my green pill moment, I'm not going to say career-wise, because now both me and Ghalia are business owners. So I had a huge turning point when we started the business. The reason is because this experience, there's nothing like it. It's not a job where, you go and you're doing the same thing every day. Every single day has its own challenges. Every single day is literally a new day. There are days where you go home and you're like, oh my God, I had such a great day. There's homes where you go and you just want to cry your eyes out. Every single day is an experience. And you just take every day as it comes. And it really has been life-changing.
So starting your own business is what changed everything for you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Brilliant. And Ghalia, could you share an inspiring or life-changing experience that you've gone through, your green pill moment?
It's definitely changing my lifestyle, changing my food, getting to exercise. It's literally when I started exploring this new lifestyle, it's like I'm born again. And
sorry for interrupting you, Ghalia. I was once sitting with Ghalia and I was seeing some of her pictures when she was in her 30s. And I looked at the pictures and I looked at her and I said, oh my God, you look literally 10 years older when you were in your 30s as opposed to what you were. Like, she's in the best shape of her life. She's 40. She's lying to you. She's not 50. She's 40. She just turned 40 because that's how she looks.
And this is why I'm so eager to help people who want to get there.
So what green pill advice would you give to your younger self? Nabz, if you want to take this one.
My younger self, my dear younger self, I love you very much. But one of the things that you need to really, really focus on is be less concerned about the future and let everything ride the wave, let things happen on their own pace. Everything's going to be okay. Do not, and I repeat, that's something my grandma actually used to tell me. Do not worry about what's going to happen in the future because everything gets resolved in the end. You don't have to worry about anything. Everything's going to fall into the right place, right time, right people, right everything.
I love that. To live in the moment. Enjoy where you are now.
Yes, totally.
That's lovely. Thank you very much. And thank you both so much for sharing your stories and how they came together, I think.
Well, thank you for having us. It was lovely being on this.
Actually, it was a great conversation.
You're so easy to talk to.
Great. Thank you very much for saying that. So have you been. It's been a lovely conversation. Now, before we say goodbye, could you please tell our audience where they can find and follow you? And we'll also share this in the show notes.
Let's start with Instagram. So you can find us on Nabz G. That's N-A, Nancy Alpha, Bravo Zebra, Alpha Nancy, what's D?
And G.
G. So Nabz and G on Instagram, Facebook, and our restaurants are in JLT. So we're in Cluster J. And we're also in the Time Out Market, and we deliver almost everywhere in Dubai. So you can find us on all the social platforms like Deliveroo, Chat Food, Zomato, and all the other platforms.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. And thank you so much again for joining me today. It was really a fun conversation, and I wish both of you and your restaurant the very, very best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.